Carrie, Vickery.
I'm Al Andrews.
Al is my kidney recipient. Al and I met in 2013 we're both lawyers, and we met at a bar event, a legal bar event. And we just kind of met briefly and went on about our day. We didn't really interact that much. Al works for the city and I was in private practice. And that was probably in the spring of 2013. I missed the very first personnel committee meeting because my grandmother, who I was very close to, had kidney failure and was at end of stage kidney failure and ultimately passed away just a few days after the meeting. And so I missed the meeting to go down and see my grandmother one last time, and then came back home to Winston. And Al and I touched base, and I explained why I'd missed the meeting, and he said, let's get lunch together, and so that we can just catch up on what you missed. And I said, okay, great. And so we went to lunch at Noble's on the back patio. So that was July 2013. And so Al, at that point, had just started dialysis. He had just had his port put in and had been on dialysis for just a few weeks, and had at that point been on the donor or the kidney list for 2 years or so. Okay, and never gotten a call. And so we had this lunch, and we never talked about the personnel committee one time at the lunch. We instead we're talking about the kidney stuff. And so I said to Al, he was telling me all this stuff, and I said, he said, just started dialysis. I've just had this surgery. I've had this port put in. And I was like, oh, dialysis, that's kidney stuff. I know about kidney stuff a little bit, and so it was my grandmother that had just passed away, and my husband that was born with one kidney, and his kidney, the one kidney he has is fine, but it was just something that I was more knowledgeable about. And so I said, oh, I actually just went and had my blood type tested because I wanted to know if I would ever potentially be a match for my husband, because as everyone in the kidney world knows, you at least have to have your letter needs to match up, your blood letter needs to match up. And so Al is former military and has had his blood type on his dog chains for half his life, and he knew he was an A positive, and I already knew I was an A positive. And I said, oh, Al, we have the same blood type, we would potentially be a match. And I said, the only caveat to this is I need to find out about my husband's blood type. His appointment's in 2 days. I'll let you know. And I still have the email where I sent Al 2 days later where I said, guess what? My husband's a B. I'll never be able to donate to him. It's all yours. And at that point started the application process with Wake Forest, which was a paper application with extensive medical history. And I said, hey, I really would like for this surgery to happen in December because the courts are closed down, and that means I would miss the minimum amount of time from work. And so our process went at seemingly rapid pace through what was really on my part numerous rounds of testing. And what was so impressive to me throughout the testing was that every single time went through another round of testing, and they would call me and they would say, okay, everything looks good, you've kind of passed this round of testing, we're on to the next one. They don't tell Al any of that. They don't tell Al anything. And so the only reason Al knew that stuff is because I would call and I would say, Al, I've passed round 1, we're on to round 2, and so and that's great that they do that, because it really helps protect the donor. And the surgeons are always very aware that for the donor it's an optional surgery, that if at any point you feel that it's not right for you for whatever reason, they have all these layers of protection and privacy that they have in place so that you can back out if that's what you choose to do without feeling any sort of pressure. And I really appreciated that, although of course I didn't use that at all, and just immediately would call Al and say, I've passed round 1, I've passed round 2, I've passed round 3. And so we checked into the hospital together on December 9th, 2013 in the morning. And I remember getting to the hospital at 8:30 and walking into the lobby of Wake Forest with my bag, and my husband and I had t-shirts made, and they're green t-shirts, and they say, "Keep calm and donate a kidney." And I was wearing my green t-shirt, and I was ready to go. And Al was in the lobby, and he said something like, "I wasn't sure if you were still gonna come." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm here. I'm so excited to be here." I remember growing up as a little girl and having friends that got to miss school or whatever because they were sick. And I never got sick, and I never got to miss school. And I was always so jealous, that my friends got to miss school, like elementary school, middle school, high school. It didn't matter. Like, I really never really got sick. And it wasn't until I was told that I was a match for Al and I was going to be approved to donate, because part of it is being a match when you're the donor, but the other part of it is that your body has to be healthy enough to be able to donate, because it is an optional surgery, and the surgeons always want to make sure that the donor is going to be okay. And it wasn't until they said, "Oh, not only are you a match, but you're healthy enough to go through the surgery," that I realized, oh, perhaps there was a purpose in me being so healthy that I didn't get to miss school in elementary school. And ultimately that purpose was that I was able to donate to Al. I'm still a little bit jealous of the kids when I was in school, but it finally made sense to me. Somewhere along there, my husband and I went to Al's house. Al's married and has a son, and we met Lynn, Al's wife, for the first time. But we met Evan, and at the time Evan was 11 and just a really cute little boy, and was still a little boy. And that was the first time my husband met Al. And I remember walking out after meeting Al, or after seeing Al and meeting Evan and meeting Lynn and getting in the car with my husband and saying, "Okay, this is the right decision. We've met Evan. Evan needs his dad." And knowing that Evan may not have always had his dad if that surgery didn't happen. And just seeing Evan and meeting Evan for the first time, and it wasn't a long meeting with Evan. It's not like we were sharing secrets or anything. It was just, like, "Hey, this is Evan and this is Carrie and Skip." And it was kind of a short meeting, but walking out and realizing that we were making the absolute right decision. And also, I think that there was just so many things that matched up so well for me and my life that made it so that I was able to donate, because living donation isn't for everyone. And I was really fortunate to be able to be in a spot and in a position where I could make that happen. I had a really supportive husband who helped me with going. He was very supportive through the testing, really supportive through the hospital stay, really supportive through the post-op care. And I just am really appreciative of being in a position where I was able to do that for Al, but even more so for Evan, because Al's the recipient, but Evan is really who has my heart. So Al and I had surgery. So we checked in the hospital December 9th, 2013, and we were in the hospital for about 24 hours. During that 24-hour period, at least on the donor part, they're retesting you to make sure that nothing has changed. They go ahead and they hook you up to an IV and start monitoring your vital signs so that they can have a good baseline for post-surgery to see what your normal is. And so then December 10th, 2013, I got wheeled down to the operating room at about 5 in the morning. And it's an early surgery, and they start the donor first because obviously the kidney has to come out before it can go into somebody else. And I remember being nervous. So I was very excited, and I thought this was, I had never had any doubts or any regrets or anything like that, but it doesn't mean that I wasn't nervous, because it was scary. But I wouldn't change it for anything. So after surgery, I remember waking up December 10th, sometime later in the afternoon. I have no idea what time that was. And I was in the hospital until about Friday afternoon, so about 4 days after surgery, and then had approximately 3 weeks at home before I ultimately went back to work. And maybe the first week back at work, I was a little tired. I had a little trouble, like in terms of stamina doing stairs. But I would say a month out at my post-op, I was fine. I didn't feel my kidneys before I had surgery. I don't feel that I have one missing now. I don't feel any different. I don't think I look any different. I have a few scars. To me, I'm proud of my scars. For the donor, it's a robotic surgery, so you have 4 small holes on your abdomen where the robot arms go in, and then a long scar about where a C-section scar would be, where they bring your kidney out. And I'm proud of those scars. So I wouldn't trade this surgery for anything. It's a small amount of discomfort for, like Al said, a lifelong bond with Al and his whole family. So his wife is like family to me, and his son is like family to me, and I know their extended family, and they're Al's dad and Lynn's parents and Evan's aunt, and and they're just really special to me. And we are really looking forward. We celebrate our anniversary every year. And I often tell my husband that it is my favorite anniversary. Sometimes it's more favorite than my wedding anniversary. And so on December 10th, 2018, we'll celebrate our 5-year anniversary. And I'm hopeful that I'll be Al's only donor. But I also know that that may or may not happen. But no matter what, I'll always be Al's first. You're going to receive so much more than you're going to give by going through the donor surgery. It's not a comfortable surgery. I would not want to mislead anyone to think that it is a walk in the park. It's painful, but it's a short-term discomfort for so much long-term gain. At least in my situation, that's how it has been for me. I feel like I gained a family. I learned so much throughout the process that the inconvenience in terms of scheduling and it had a minimal negative impact on my life. And so if anyone is thinking about it and is able to make it work in their life, then I would encourage them to do so, because for me, it has been so rewarding.